What are you doing in the insulation? I can see you're in it. Welcome back to the van conversion. A few arrivals in the post today that I thought I'd share with you, and hopefully we're going to make a start on the wiring and getting some of the insulation in the walls. Okay, first up on the delivery was some cabling. This is 1.5mm cable which we're going to use to run the lights in the ceiling, the fan, and the lights which will probably be in the back wall, like reading lights above the bed. So I've got 25 meters of each of that to start us off. I need to get some heavier duty stuff for things like the fridge and things like that in the future, but that's enough to get us beyond the kind of ceiling conduit so we can carry on insulating the walls. We should probably crack on and get some of today's work done. What we need to do is we need to thread our cables in first. I've got 3 ceiling lights. We haven't picked the ceiling lights yet, but I can drop the cables down into the right places. So we need to bring one there, second one in the middle, third one at the front there, bring a positive and negative there, feed it back to the conduit, and then we're going to put everything above the cab when it comes to the kind of the fuses and the control bit. We'll put that on above the driver's side, I think. We'll run everything down there, out the way, and then we can get on with the insulation. Doing in the insulation? I can see you're in it. Can you hop out? Because it might be a bit dusty.
Yay.
So I've managed to run a positive to each of the lights now. Those will be coming down from all 3 lights to the switch on the wall, and then we'll have a feed coming from above the cab. And I just need to put one up to the fan now, which is obviously a 12-volt fan up here. So that's going to go over to that side and along. I wish I hadn't bought this loose now. It would be much easier if it was on a reel. Good, that's the one. So that is our live feed coming from the fuse board, and these are our negatives coming back from the lights. Now, before anyone comments, I am aware that we could just ground these negatives or earth them to the bodywork of the van, because effectively the bodywork becomes the negative. But you know, that means having an extra point to earth them to everywhere there's an appliance, which is just multiplies the amount of places that things can go wrong or disconnect or short. So I think it's probably safer to do what I've done, which is just to take them all back to a common place, and we'll terminate them all at the same place. That means there's like less junctions within the roof or within the walls, because at the end of the day we're not going to have much access to those afterwards. So what we've got is a whole load of unlabelled wires, but these will be our 3 positives going up to the lights, which will come from the switch on the wall, and that's our feed into the switch. So it's fairly straightforward, and that will mean that because they're in parallel, the individual lights on the ceiling can be switched off. They've got a little button on the side. But when we finish that end in an evening, we can kind of knock those 2 off, yet still keep a light back here above the bed. Another tip which I've used quite a lot in the house is if you've got any conduit or ducting of any form like this, and you need to feed stuff through it, especially if it's something that's quite thin and flexible and you can't feed through, this is actually quite stiff cable and you can just about feed it through, even if there's bends. But what you can do is just tie some string or cotton to a little bit of tissue or foam and stuff that in one end, and then go to the other end and with a hoover or shop vac or whatever, just suck that through, and then you'll be able to grab that cotton or string, pull it through, well, tie whatever you're feeding on the other end, pull it through. That's pretty straightforward. So when we built the patio and I put that sort of 35mm, 32mm conduit underneath all the concrete, the only way I could feed the thin garden hoses through that afterwards was to do exactly that, suck it through like a string, a pilot string I guess, and then kind of pull that through afterwards. So that's a little tip for van conversions as well. But of course, as soon as you put a cut like this or a junction, then you would lose the suction and that wouldn't work quite so well. A highly unproductive afternoon. I only really had an hour on it, but all that cabling takes so much more time than you think it will. Tomorrow I'm hopefully going to get a start on the wall insulation, and because I'm using the rolls of soft insulation, because they're compressed in the rolls, what I'm going to do is just unroll them now, just so they've got time to kind of expand and relax a bit. Even just cutting the packaging and leaving them loose, you know, undoing them a little bit will help, I think. I'm just going to get 3 or 4 of them out for now. There's a few more, which I think I just over-ordered, but we'll use those up in the loft of the house. So I'm going to try and pick up where I left off and get all of the remaining sort of insulation on this angled section done now, so I can finish the ceiling. That'd be a good point to then stop and kind of stop with the ceiling. Then we can start insulating the walls, and then we'll go back over and do all the painting after, and filling and sanding and all that stuff. The electrics also arrived today. I'm going to cover that in a separate video, but a lot of the components and cabling arrived, so that's going to be something to put together, I guess, once the walls are done, once I've got all the conduit and wiring in place, and we can set all that up. I'm hoping it's going to go above the cab area, but I need to check for space and size up there and for access. So a few more of these little sections of foam to cut, and then we can start getting that in there. A little bit of expanding foam on the join, friction fit them in, tape them, similar to how we did the ceiling, and then we'll get some full lengths of pine up. So this bottom edge here doesn't really matter where that finishes, because we've got soft fill insulation in here, and then our wall will come up pretty much vertically and it'll hit there anyway, so it doesn't really matter that that overlaps, it's almost better. So I'm going to take these joins for now, just to stop any of the foam as it expands. It might push this foam out, kick it out a bit. So I'm going to tape those to stop that happening, and when we're finished we'll then tape this whole seam along here to make the whole vapor barrier kind of carry on round. Okay, we're now at a point where I've done all of the taping both sides, so we're all vapor barrier proof down to this sort of level. So now we're going to put 2 more strips of tug and groove in on the angle, and that will get us ready for the walls. this section here, it's just not worth trying to panel that. It's only about 25-30 mil. So I'm going to tie that in when we do the little beam bit above the sliding door. So we'll do a short piece in here and the roof is done. Right, back to basics again. If you just need to do a square cut and you haven't come across it before, a normal handsaw has these squares on ready for that. So you can actually just use it like a set square if you haven't got one to hand. So if you're just marking up a straight, and you can do it like that. We actually need to do a 45-degree up here, so I'm just going to put that side on there. And we've got a pretty accurate line there to cut on. I'm sure that's preaching to the choir, but hey. Oh, once again we're on a two-person job. That took far too long, but the ceiling is now finished. Well, the first phase of it. I'm going to leave it as it is now. We of course need to fill all these holes. We're painting all of the internal walls and surfaces, and then we'll make a feature of the wooden worktop and things like that. I didn't want the whole thing to be wood, and although, you know, wood grain is beautiful, I didn't want it to look like a sauna, and I think Joe's pretty keen to keep it really simple in here, so it's a polar opposite to our house. So, time to kind of wrap up, have a tidy down, and in the next video we're going to crack on and make a start on insulating the walls. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to follow all the van updates and other videos. Share, thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you in the next one.